Hello, welcome. We are just about go time. I am going to wait a couple more minutes to see who is remaining to step on to the webinar, and we'll go through a little introduction. But I appreciate everybody for taking the time out of this chilly morning and being here with me today. So first off, as we go through a few checks, I want to see if anybody can give me a little heads up. There's a Q&A area. Just give me a yes if you can see my screen. It's more of a title page that we're starting with. It says Inspiring Life, reset on it. Want to make sure we're good to go. We've got people. Perfect. Thank you, Stacy. Excellent. Okay, we'll get ready to roll. Most of you have met me before. My name is Mark Peverett. I am one of the chiropractors at Chaparral Chiropractic Wellness Center. And as a brief introduction for those of you that have not met us as to who we are as a center, we opened our doors in 2001. So crazy that it's coming on 20 years of being in the community of Chaparral, growing with the community of Chaparral and the surrounding communities as well within South Calgary. Now, this would have been our 17th annual Inspiring Life event. And certainly 2020 has moved us to adapt, to pivot. And here we are hosting our first ever virtual event. So we're putting it into 4 separate webinars. We welcome you to join us for each of them. Today, I'll be introducing here shortly. But I also want to say, beyond thank you for being here with me today, I do want to put out that with doing the webinars, I certainly get as much out of doing the events as the participants. It does force me or pushes me to learn more, to engage in searching for improvements in myself. And so as I present today, it's kind of a learning process between each of us. I'm speaking to myself, challenging improvements in myself. And so I thank you again for being here with me today. Couple quick notes. I will try to keep this to 45 minutes. The beauty, if we're looking at some of the positives of today's world right now, very few of us have anywhere to be. A lot of our events are on hold at the time. So sit back, relax, comfort of your home, and I hope this will be of good value for you as it will be for me. Feel free to enter any questions into the Q&A area as you want throughout the webinar. I will make note, however, I'll probably not get to any of the questions during the webinar just for sake of time. However, I'll do my best to respond to you individually afterwards and make sure that you get your questions answered. From there, you may also receive an email probably tomorrow, kind of a follow-up where you can certainly respond back to the email. If you had any questions, comments, we're always looking to improve things along the way. And yeah, so here we go. Admittedly, last year, I had this kind of crazy excitement. We were hosting our Inspiring Life 2020 event. And so we used the cliche of 2020 vision, right? I mean, it was going to be that perfect vision for what the year ahead held for us, and it was just going to be an amazing year. And so, with the irony of what 2020 has presented, certainly, as Mike Tyson would say, everybody has a plan until they get punched in the mouth. And I would suggest that COVID has certainly given the world a solid punch to deal with. So with that in mind, we've titled our event for the year, Inspiring Life Reset. I'm sure that we could all agree that a reset is in order. On the screen here in front of you, it should also say Maximizing Health, Inspiring Life. That's the tagline that we've created as a center. If you're ever in the reception area, we also have it posted on the wall. This speaks to the idea that when we are able to maximize our health potential, we're better able to live an inspiring life. And that's an inspiring life both to ourselves and to others. It's more or less, it's talking about the idea of living with more energy, being able to accomplish more with our days, more or less getting more out of life, let's say. As more of an introduction of who I am, I apologize, I'm looking off to the side on occasion. I've got a dual monitor system going right now, so trying to track things along the way. So myself, I'm a husband as well, about to celebrate 25 years of marriage, father of two, no longer kids, they're young adults now, they're on their pursuit of their own dreams. And I also have a passion for the sport of triathlon, specifically the long distance triathlons, which are called Ironman events. And I share this because the tagline of our center and the title of the events that we're hosting, Inspiring Life, it really resonates with why I do triathlons. And I often say that to people when they ask about my involvement with them. I am truly inspired by the people that I meet during the training and at the races, uh, their stories. On your screen, there are a number of pictures showing people that they all have stories of perseverance and overcoming significant challenges along the way. For the sake of time, I'm going to highlight the individual, the top center photo, the fellow with the bright orange t-shirt with his arms raised. His name is Chris Nikic, who just this past November 2020, he became the first ever individual with Down syndrome to complete a full distance Ironman event. Now, for those of you that are not familiar with triathlons consist of swimming, then biking, then running. The Ironman distance event consists of swimming for 3.8 kilometers, getting out of the water onto your bike right away, biking for 180 kilometers, following the bike ride off the bike onto the run of 42.2 kilometers. And all of this, 226 kilometers to be done within a time limit of 17 hours. And so Chris became again the first Down syndrome individual to complete an Ironman distance event. And the lesson I want to take from Chris, if you look at his shirt, it says 1% better. That was or is his mantra that he lives with about becoming 1% better as he was pushing through his days of training to attain this big goal of his and accomplish it along the way. So here we are. I've got V20.21. Admittedly, every year I simply change it. We were version 20.20 last year. Now we're 20.21. And I always put up the idea or that title of best year ever. I added 1% this year with the mantra of Chris. And the idea behind best year ever, I truly believe that we should live with the idea of getting better with time. I came across a quote just a couple weeks ago in a book called Driven, and it said, better has no finish line. So I really like that statement, better has no finish line. We should always be stepping forward into growth, and we're going to talk much about that as we go through today. Now, 2020 and COVID have presented many challenges. However, I also believe that we should focus on some of the lessons or the learnings from the past year. We have an image on your screen here as though you're driving within a car. And the idea of the imagery with this is that as you're looking ahead, about 95% of the surface area in front of you is through the windshield or what's ahead of you, whereas approximately 5% is in the rear view mirror. This illustrates the idea or the importance of reflecting back at times, just seeing what the past has brought you through. So the past year of 2020, I would ask, do you have a greater appreciation for the opportunities or the events that we have had since they've been taken away from us through the past year? And how about other lessons of the year, more appreciation for family time, simple pleasures, getting outdoors. I'm seeing a lot of people hiking in the beauty of our backyard, as it would be out in Bragg Creek or the Kananaskis area, snowshoeing, skiing, whatever it might be. So learning from the past, and then as we reflect back, we then should focus ahead, and then what lays ahead of us. I would refer to this as your potential. So, do you have a greater appreciation for what's ahead? And there's a saying that says, don't compare your present with your past, compare your present with your potential. And that's really what today is about, and the Inspiring Life event, about looking at that inherent potential that you have within you. Our Inspiring Life Reset webinars will cover the essentials of health, and we phrase these as mindset, meals, and movement. It's essentially how you think, how you eat, and how you move. And we consider these the major determinants of your overall health. For today, or for this morning, we're starting with mindset, as I believe a healthy mind is a requirement for a healthy body. And so the big ideas of today, we will look at, first off, mindset, stress, and physiology. Essentially, we'll introduce some of the science behind how your mind affects your overall health. From there, we'll move into vision, or what is the best version of you? Have you thought about this before? Well, we'll dig into the process of creating that vision for your ideal self or your best version. Moving from there, we'll go into values, goals, and your why. We'll work through the process of moving to your ideal self by determining what your values are, setting forward what goals you should work to accomplish, and then also looking at the importance of having a strong why or purpose behind what you're doing. And then woven in amongst all of this will be some well-recognized research supporting the power of mindset or positive psychology. So let's begin. Now, this statement, it highlights why we're focusing on the essentials of health during the webinars. It's important to recognize that our genetics are not ultimately what determine our overall health or that our health outcomes. As stated here by Dr. Chestnut, how we choose to eat, move, and think both determines the quality and quantity of our lives. And I would suggest that this has certainly been brought to light during 2020. Without getting into all the details surrounding COVID, it's been well recognized that patients that have comorbidities, say diabetes or hypertension or obesity, they have a much higher risk of poor outcomes if they catch COVID. The percentages have been put out there in different areas. Around 94% of those with poor outcomes or those dying have comorbidities. So my belief would be that this creates a very compelling reason to work on building a strong health foundation that makes us a lot more resilient to the challenges that lay ahead. Now, getting into the science, hormones certainly influence our physiology, which ultimately will either improve our health or deteriorate our state of health. And I use the title or the label hormonal storm when I'm referring to the idea of poor lifestyle, which results in or creates mental stress, or the intake of toxic and deficient foods, or sedentary lifestyle that lacks proper movement. These are what create hormonal shifts that negatively affect our overall health. Make note again, these are the essentials of health that we're talking about: the mindset, the meals, and the movement. And again, we will focus on our mindset today. So psychological stress. On the topic of mindset, one of the major psychological or the effects of psychological or mental stress is an elevation in cortisol circulating through our bodies or through our system. Now, this may be considered a smart response of the body. I give the example of an acute stress situation, such as when Mr. or Mrs. Bear does not want to have his picture taken, and you have to either protect yourself or act quickly and run away. What happens? We have certain physiological changes that occur within our bodies, such as an upregulation of blood pressure, heart rate, blood sugar, blood lipids, clotting factors. So these are all designed to allow us to respond quickly, to protect ourselves, or to heal a wound if we are injured during the event. Things that are downregulated are long-term memory. We don't have to remember what we learned in high school math class. Immune system downregulation. So we're not necessarily fighting off the impending cold infection at that point in time. We're worried about survival mode at that point in time. Now, how about if we move this into a sustained or longer period of time where it becomes chronic stress, as with the challenges of 2020, a lot of the challenges and the uncertainty that the year have presented to us. Well, make note, we have the same physiological changes occurring, however, they're occurring over an extended period of time. Once again, designed perfectly for when you can get away from the stressor within a short period of time, not designed for when we are stuck in that situation through an extended period of time. And how about if we pair this with, so we pair the psychological, the mental stress with sleep deprivation. Now, I'm sure everybody on the webinar today gets quality 8+ hours of sleep every night, feeling fully rested when you're waking up. Saying this in jest. However, when you pair that mental stress with sleep deprivation, these are some of the effects that can happen. Mesenteric fat, or fat around the organs, belly fat, more or less. This is why it's difficult for the individual who is committed to working out, doing the cardio sessions 3, 4, 5 times a week on the treadmill. However, they're living with high stress and poor quality sleep. They have a difficult time losing that centripetal obesity, or that belly fat. As well, we can have systemic inflammation occurring, and it's well recognized that inflammation is at the root cause of many lifestyle-based conditions. Thirdly, when we're sleeping, human growth hormone, or HGH, is produced. This is very important for tissue repair and regeneration, kind of repairing or rebuilding our bodies. So when you don't have the quality sleep, you're not properly recovering through the night. And then we have altered gene expression. So it moves us towards lifestyle-based diseases. Again, genetics don't ultimately control our outcomes. It's more the lifestyle that we live, or the choices we make, that influence the expression of genes, resulting in potential disease. So how do we move from this? How can we shift towards positive mindset? Well, we've certainly faced numerous challenges during 2020. A lot of our freedoms have temporarily been taken away from us. The quote in front of you by Austrian psychiatrist Viktor Frankl, he says that the last of human freedoms is the ability to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances. Now, make note, if you don't know who Viktor Frankl is, he wrote a book, a very popular book, Man's Search for Meaning. He was a Holocaust survivor. He was in a horrendous situation of a concentration camp for over 2 years, and he decided that he would not allow his captors to take away his freedom to choose how to respond in any situation. So the idea here is to practice how we respond in our life experiences. And it's said that we need to take responsibility. So our ability to respond differently in any given set of circumstance. Now, between a stimulus and our response, there's a gap. And too often we collapse the two. So let's say we get cut off in traffic. We have an immediate response, typically of anger or frustration. And how about if customer service isn't great or doesn't meet your expectations? How do you respond? or various situations like that. Your gym has been closed due to COVID. The idea is that we need to essentially widen the gap between that stimulus and how we respond, and we need to choose, let's say, a more optimal response. It may not be perfect, but it's suggested that you take your everyday, let's say, mundane experiences, take notice of how you respond to those little things and get better, build muscle on the little things so that when the big things happen, such as COVID, they don't affect you or your emotions and your reactions as much. So practice widening the gap, and remember always that you have a choice. So here I'll introduce to you Roderick Sewell. He's a bilateral above the knee amputee. He may rightly have accepted that he had many limitations in life, yet ultimately he decided that he wouldn't allow the apparent limitations to prevent him from seeing what was truly possible. So I'm going to play a short video clip for you here, hopefully.
You're an Iron Man, and here he comes. He's making history. The first bilateral double above the knee amputee with prosthetics, the newcomer, Roderick Sewell.
So Roderick Sewell, hopefully everybody was able to hear that, see that okay? It's yet another story of inspiration demonstrating that we have a choice in how we respond. I'll remind you, so that was the finish line of Ironman Hawaii, the World Championships of Ironman. That was in 2019. I'll remind you again, 3.8 kilometers of swimming, 180 kilometers of biking, 42.2 kilometers of running, and in his case, doing it all without legs. So inspiration for you, demonstrating again, though, that we have a choice to really see what is possible. So we'll move from that. And now let's start finding, let's call it the super you, or your ideal self. According to American psychologist Abraham Maslow, we have this need to actualize. He says it's part of the hierarchy of needs, the need to actualize, to become what you are destined to be. He states that what one can be, one must be, noting that we have these potential strengths within us that are wanting to be used and to be actualized. Therefore, I would suggest that we must ask ourselves, what is the best version of me, right? What is the best version of you? This is where we start to build your vision for life, your ideal self, call it the optimist you, the best version of you. On the screen here, I've identified 3 primary life categories called self, social, and service. Could also refer to it as your health, your relationships, and your work, or how you provide. You can consider many more subcategories in this regard. You can break it down into, say, physical health, your fitness, even your knowledge or your learning. You can look at family and friends, finances, and even your legacy. So a lot more categories that you can break it into. I'm simplifying here, 3 broad categories. And for our purposes, for the Inspiring Life webinars, we're really focusing on self, kind of who we are and our overall health. We're working to build that health foundation that ultimately impacts all other areas of life in a positive way when we can build a better health foundation. As it would be, I'm sure you would all agree that you need your health to succeed in other areas of life. Now, why is there a sunset on the screen here? This is to remind us that our vision should grow with us. So as you improve, your vision should expand. It's sort of like chasing the sunset. If you decide you want to get out to that sunset, you're never going to reach it. And so the same goes with your vision. You should never fully reach your vision. It should always start or always grow or expand with you. Could be the simple example of the child that's wanting to learn how to ride a bike. They start with their tricycle, then they go to the training wheels. Then it may be mom or dad holding the back of the seat, and then they're off and they're running. Is that enough? Well, no. Typically, it's evolved into wheelies and skids and jumps and whatever it might be. But our vision expands, and it's also like the individual who signs up to do their first ever 5 kilometer walk or run. They train hard, they get to it, they accomplish it. Well, is that it, or is there more? Do you expand your vision and simply say, well, how about a 10K? Where can I go from here? So translate that into your fitness, your nutrition, learning, other areas of life. According to Tony Robbins, well-known sort of guru and motivational speaker, he says that life is growth. All humans seek growth or progress. If you're not growing, he says you're inherently unhappy. Okay. So going from here, in recognizing your ideal self or your actualized potential, you start to clarify your values. And the way I look at it, your values are what will direct your behavior. They're somewhat like the guardrails that you see protecting this roadway that would prevent the car from going off the road. Similarly, values guard you from going off the path in a better direction. If you value fitness and living with energy, you'll be much less likely, I'll suggest, to say, eat Pop-Tarts for breakfast every day, right? So take time to define your top values that you will live towards. Very important. And this is where I'll introduce the idea of the belief, action, result cycle or triangle. What we're talking about here is when you hold strong beliefs, if you have a belief, let's say that the energetic, fit, healthy, best version of you is a person that has a scheduled, disciplined exercise routine, they get daily movement, they drink plenty of water, they eat salads, then if you have those strong beliefs, you'll take on those actions. You'll carry those actions forward, and those actions ultimately create your results. And those results will reinforce the beliefs that you are holding. So it's that cycle of reinforcing the beliefs. And that's why it's vital to have a strong mindset for success. Decide who it is that you want to be, and your actions will support that and create that person. Now, I'll say that the first step in getting somewhere is knowing where you are currently. And we also need to accept your current situation or state, right? Then the question becomes, how do I bridge the gap between where I am right now and what I'm capable of being? Between my actualized potential. So where I am right now to my actualized potential. Do you have a growth mindset or a fixed mindset? Well, a fixed mindset, that person sees limits in their abilities. Let's go back to Roderick Sewell, double below the or above the knee amputee. He could have accepted he had a lot of limits and never found out what he was truly capable of being, right? So in having a growth mindset, you need to embrace every moment where we have a choice. Do we step forward into growth, or do we step backwards into safety? There's a need essentially to step outside of our comfort zone on occasion. For me today, I'm hosting my first ever Zoom webinar. Somewhat uncomfortable doing this. Hopefully everything is working out well. Seems to be. Hopefully we're getting it recorded as well, and we'll see the ultimate result. Step out of comfort, I'll get better with time. I'll also make note that it's important to manage our state of emotions. This is something that comes from Tony Robbins, because our ability to take action, to step forward into growth, is much greater when we're in a state of high energy or positive energy. So if you're feeling stuck, It's very well recognized that motion creates emotion or positive emotions. The simple act of moving will shift your physiology and move you towards a better state. Give the example that if you have a bad day, which I guarantee everybody's had at least one so-called bad day, and then you get home from your bad day, you decide you need to let go of some of that energy and you go for a walk. I would ask, are you better or are you worse after you get back from that walk? Well, you're better. You're in a better emotional state, right? Movement creates that good emotion. Also take note in this regard that we're not talking about perfection, rather bringing more awareness and paying attention to the opportunities to move forward. And this is where I would bring back Chris Nikic and his mantra of 1% better, right?
Chris Nikic, you! Amazing! Yeah.
What time did Chris tell him?
10 hours.
Let's get out of the way. All right, Chris, let's go, kid. We're done. Come on, Chris.
Give it to him, Chris Nikic. You are an Iron Man.
So that was in Florida. It was the only Ironman-based event that took place in North America with COVID. Florida had certainly looser restrictions. Everything went very well, very safe. But again, inspiring story there with Chris, his 1% mantra. And on the bike there, he said, he was asked, what time is it? And his response was game time. Like that. So what will help you or us to see 1% better? Well, I would suggest that goals are required. Goals are where we have a way to measure our progress. Goals should also stretch you. You want to incrementally stretch yourself outside of your comfort zone. And more importantly, do it consistently. Consistency is key. I recognize that very much through my participation in triathlons. Been at it for over 15 years. And it's been a incremental growth through a lot of consistency. I got my Strava update the other day and showing how consistent I have been through the year, and it kind of reinforces that commitment. Research also indicates that, now I know it's just a number, they say 4% increase in the challenge to skill ratio when you're setting your goals. And the idea with this is that, yeah, you want to stretch yourself, but you don't want to make it so hard that it's next to impossible to attain. You get frustrated, but you don't want to make it too easy as well, right? If you haven't run for 20 plus years since your glory days in high school running track, I would suggest that you not sign up for next month's marathon challenge. Perhaps start with the 5K or the Couch to 5K program. The image in front of you has DWMY. This refers to daily, weekly, monthly, and yearly goals. You might have a daily goal of 10,000 steps. You may have a weekly goal of 3 structured on your calendar workouts per week, and then it just goes from there. BHAG, B-H-A-G. If you're not familiar with this is a thing. It's not just my saying, but it's a big, hairy, audacious goal. And I would suggest we all create a big, hairy, audacious goal, something that really, it kind of seems unreachable in a way, because it will force you to expand. I have a lofty goal, or a BHAG, of qualifying for the Ironman World Championships one day. Now, that takes quite a bit. You have to be at the top 1% of the top 1% and have a very good day to get there. Did I think or have this BHAG back in 2008 when I did my very first full distance Ironman event? Well, no, not a chance. Back then, my BHAG was just get me to the finish line, let me survive the day. And then again, vision grows, you expand with it. The important point here as well with the BHAG is to recognize that it's a process of moving towards your goal that creates a better version of you. You have to enjoy the journey or let's say the view along the way, and don't simply focus on the end goal. It's more about who you become along the way. So we truly need to recognize the process and who you are becoming, that better version of yourself. Now, how do we stay consistent in our efforts to attain our goals, to move towards our better version of ourselves or our actualized potential? It's suggested many times over that we need a why, or a strong enough why. According to Darren Hardy, he's got great little video snippets out. He calls them Darren Daily, motivational videos that you can search out. He was the editor-in-chief of Success Magazine a few years back, motivational speaker. But he says that the power of your why is what will power you to overcome any obstacle and achieve the seemingly impossible. So your why, it can also be known as your purpose or referred to as your purpose. It's what propels you forward. It's a compelling reason to make that lasting change. Now, with that said, sadly, it's often a health scare that creates a shift in people. And we don't want to make changes out of desperation. We want to make changes out of inspiration. Hence the title of our event, Inspiring Life, not Desperation Life, right? I have another video here for you to enjoy. This one's a little bit longer, but it's certainly worth it. This speaks to the power of your why. Enjoy.
This is called How Do I Know? And a lot of times when people hear the phrase, how do I know, the next thing they say is what? How do I know what? But the key really isn't to know what. The key is to know why. Because when you know your why, you have options on what your what can be. For instance, my why is to inspire people to walk in purpose. My what is stand-up comedy. My what is writing books. My what can be going out with some friends to eat. In fact, another what that has moved me towards my why is a web series that we have out now called Break Time. So every Wednesday at 3 o'clock, you should subscribe to the channel. We do a series called Break Time on YouTube. So 3 o'clock, we drop a new episode. One episode in particular, I'm about to show you a clip to. We were in Winston-Salem. So Break Time, this is how it works. I travel the country, I do stand-up comedy, probably an hour, hour and a half at an event. And in the middle of my show, I'll just sit down and start talking to the audience. And funny just happens. Or I'll meet somebody who's really interesting. So I met this one guy, and he said that he teaches music at a school. I was like, all right, you teach music, you know, can you sing? And then I'm just gonna show you the clip. Check it. So you're a musical director. Cool.
Yes, sir.
All right, so let me get a couple bars of like Amazing Grace. Can you do the first part of that? Go ahead.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me.
Wow. That bro could sing. You know what I'm saying? All right. Now, what you give me the version is if your uncle just got out of jail, you got shot in the back when you was a kid. I'm just saying, let me see the hood version real quick, if you know which version I'm talking about. Just see if that exists. Let me see what you got.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a blind, but now I see.
So here's the thing. The first time I asked him to sing, he knew what he was doing. The second time I asked him to sing, he knew why he was doing it. When you know your why, your what has more impact because you're walking in or towards your purpose.
All right, good. Hopefully the sound's coming through well enough for everybody there. You can search that video clip on YouTube if you want to watch it again. Michael Jr. Anyhow, when you know your why, your what has more impact. And so it's that idea of building a strong enough why or purpose for your actions, and they do become easier to carry out as it would be. I would also suggest that we need to recognize the more immediate benefits of our behaviors too. So recognize the immediate benefits of your healthy behaviors for why you're doing something. It was that example of go for a walk and you feel much better after the fact. Your workouts, even though you're dreading going into a workout, almost guarantee that you feel better after the fact. I heard somebody joke once that working out is like taking Prozac and Ritalin together. Not that I've ever taken any of those, yet it improves your mental awareness, and it also improves your energy or your emotions as you go forward. As we come toward the end of our time, I think I'm keeping pretty good time here. A review of what we've discussed today and what you should start working on today as well. So we looked at some of the psychology, the science that shows how our psychology or our mental state affects our physiology and therefore our overall level of health. From there, we looked at what is the best version of you? What's your vision, the best version of you? According to Maslow, he said, what one can be, one must be. So what are you destined to be? In recognizing your ideal self, along the way, we determine our top values. I'd suggest just pick out your top 3 values that you're going to live by. Your guardrails, right? That will direct you along the successful path. Do you value health and energy? Well, then Wednesday wing night isn't going to happen as often. And from here, in recognizing the ideal self, in recognizing where we want to get to our more actualized potential, we need to develop those goals. Goals are kind of like stepping stones that move us towards the best version of ourselves. Now, with that said, we don't expect perfection, just better, right? According to Chris Nikich, 1% better. On this note, we take steps backwards once in a while. It's more that idea of consistency. We're allowed cheat days. We can have our wings and beer on occasion, but it's about building that overall consistency of positive actions and sort of living in harmony with ourselves. We need to focus on that growth and that not only getting to the finish line, but finding that better vision of ourselves along the way. Stressing the importance of that why that will propel you forward, compel you to take those positive actions, to do the hard things when you don't feel like it. And then also recognizing the more immediate benefits. As we go through that process, the process that we've outlined today, the next step is implementation or taking action. And this is where we bring in what we call the habits for success. It's been said that we are what we repeatedly do. Therefore, you need to create good habits that you'll live out day in, day out. And that will allow you to get to where you want to be, right? So habits for success, that will be the fourth webinar in the series, and that's when I'll be back with you. In 2 weeks' time, Dr. Barry will be with you presenting on the meals piece and providing you with excellent content and information and inspiration. So if you're not already registered for that, I'd suggest doing so. And what I want to leave you with, this is an old picture of my son. He's cooling off after one of his first triathlons many years ago. Just wanted to leave you with the idea of bringing you back to that youthful spirit, the one that's not afraid to step forward into growth, step outside of the comfort zone, and challenge yourself to be a better version of who you can and will be in the coming year. So I mentioned already that you'll likely receive an email follow-up. I believe it may be going out tomorrow. Feel free to comment back, suggestions, ideas, questions. I'd also suggest if you want to include in what your goals are, your BHAG, if you want to share that one too, then great, because accountability does go a long ways and we're here to support you. We are going to do a draw for today as well. This is our new custom-made Boko beanie for Chaparral Chiropractic. On a day like today, we definitely need this to look stylish and keep warm. So if you want to be in on the draw, simply put a I'm in or a game time. How about game time, like Chris Nikic said on the bike there? Put that in the Q&A section or in response to the email. We'll make sure your name gets in the draw, and we'll do the draw sometime this week and make sure that the winner gets surprised. Again, 2 weeks from today, Dr. Barry will be presenting with you on meals, and otherwise, please know that we're here to support you in your health journey. We'd welcome any opportunity to work with you, and I'll leave you with just go make it a great day. We'll talk to you soon.